Caritas News on the Go, the Social Action Network's news and public affairs online show featuring national newsmakers and our team Caritas from the 85 social action centers nationwide. Live at Caritas Philippine social media channels, Fridays 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning. Caritas News on the Go.
Magandang umaga, ako si Jean Ray Henderson at ito ang Caritas News on the Go. Sa pangalawang pagkakataon, makakasama po natin walang iba kundi ang Bishop ng Diocese of Boac dito sa Marinduque, Bishop Marcelino Antonio Maralit. Magandang umaga, Bishop.
Good morning, Jing, at good morning po sa lahat ng ating mga viewers.
Kumusta po ngayon ang buong Diocese of Marinduque, especially after the election and also still with the pandemic?
Well, siguro two realities ang kinakaharap namin. One, going towards yung new normal. Kasi when it comes to the pandemic, parang normal lang buhay. No? So parang recovering na kami. On the stage ng recovery, at mukha namang ang mga tao is trying to be as normal as possible, even the church. No? That's one. Second naman, when it comes to the elections, parang insignificant din naman yung effect ng election sa amin. Baka in the long run, mararamdaman namin kung anong ibig sabihin ng mga choices ng tao. But for the moment, same politicians pa rin naman ang nanalo sa aming island. On the national level, hindi pa namin ramdam kung ano-ano. So, ganun ang parang naging mukha nitong past election. And sadly, no, there were a lot of supposed cases naman ng hindi naman cheating kundi vote buying, and a lot of siguro nga ganung mga pagkakataon na sana hindi nangyari pero nangyari na sa election that people are accusing some other politicians with. So parang bumalik kami doon sa dati Ang akala ko nga nabawasan pero mukhang lalo pang sabi and hopefully COMELEC will do its part and their job to try to really investigate the matter. So yun ang basically situation namin now.
Bishop, with the, sabi mo po kanina, yung especially with the national election, mukhang wala pang epekto to ngayon sa inyo. Pero we know na halimbawa, ang simbahan po ay naging all out. Yung ating pagiging involved, pagiging engaged sa 2022 elections. And the turnout was not something na we wanted.
Yeah.
Bilang obispo at bilang head din po ng Episcopal Commission on Social Communications, what does this tell you?
Well, one, bilang obispo dito sa amin, sabi ko nga, before kasi, I would say it na, si Lenny nanalo dito before in the vice presidential elections. Now, she lost. But when she lost here, hindi naman katulad sa national level, 31 million versus 15. Here, no. The president now, Marcos, won only by, I think, if not 8,000 votes. So, hindi naman ganun kalaki. And then, or di pala, less pa nga, less. And sadly, we have had invalidated votes na more than 7,000. So, you really do not know if, kung nanalo ba siya o whatever. So, on the level namin, hindi rin naman kami ganun ka-disappointed. So, meaning to say, the message went to people naman, kasi nga all out naman nga yung, lalo ni sa discernment process. No? Talaga lang tumaas yung isa na, in that sense. So, meaning to say, there is an awareness pa rin naman sa tao namin dito. Now, when it comes to the national level, syempre, as a bishop and as the Episcopal Commission Head of Social Communications, I begin to posit yung questions na na kung talagang what we were fighting for was the truth, what we were fighting for was the moral choice, ay ano nangyari? Why didn't we reach or we didn't have an effect on the majority of our countrymen who are in the majority Catholics? So sabi ko nga, it begins to create a questioning for me. And I did ask myself din naman one, where is the credibility now of the hierarchy? Kasi we represent the people no matter how we put it, even if the laity began to bring out their voice, pero leaders din sila ng laity. bishops and priests came out as moral choice. And yet, why is our choice not something people choose?
Correct. Opo. Kasi dati, I think previous elections, ang sinasabi sa atin is, why are you only providing us with the criteria? You have to name the person para mas mabilis para sa amin. We did that this time, pero it didn't.
So, ganun eh. I mean, so, there is a question there now whether our voice as hierarchy, not as the church. Kasi we are not the church. We are part of the church. We represent the hierarchy of the church. So the hierarchy has to be the one asking the question of, ano na, what happened to our voice? Is it because one, we're not that credible anymore? And sometimes it's very hard and very painful to ask the question, but credibility when it's a moral choice is based on your own moral ascendancy. Meaning to say, are you a moral example?
So, the election was a slap in our face?
Well, maybe it's a slap to wake us up. No, to wake us up to one reality that we should be really rethinking about. That's one, no, sabi ko nga, maybe it's our credibility. Second, sabi ko nga, is maybe we're disconnected with our people na. Maybe we still have the morality and the moral ascendancy that I'm talking about, but our message does not reach the people in such a way na, bakit kaya? Maybe because we're not speaking about the same language na. And beautifully enough, our Holy Father gave us a thought for our reflection pa rin and evaluation. What is that? Listening to our people. Maybe we have already failed them by not listening to them. And the consultation for the synodality, well, the Synod of Bishops on synodality is a good thing, and I think a good tool to measure everything, because the message of our people during the consultation is very clear. Hopefully, this will continue in the church, and tuwan-tuwa silang pinakinggan sila. So, meaning to say, baka dati hindi nga natin pinakinggan para matuwa. And the election, I think, is just a phase of what our people were already telling us. And ang hirap talaga magbigay ng message kung yung tao disconnected na siya. I think that's another question we have to make. So, on the national level, yun ang lumabas sa akin eh. Na parang thought ko as a bishop and as a chair. Isipin mo, we're the ones helping out and trying to bring out the message. Kaya ngayon, yung challenge ko sa mga SOCOMs, I was invited to speak sa Davao, sa mga SOCOM ministers. Sabi ko, baka itong message ni Pope is a challenge for us to become instruments naman of not bringing out a message, but bringing in a message to the church. Galing sa tao. So I think that's where we are right now in my assessment when it comes to the elections on our local level and national.
Pero hindi ba nagkakaroon parang disparity, Bishop? Because for example, yung 2021 Philippine Trust Index, ang nandoon ay pinakamataas ang trust rating ng simbahan. Pero how come na dito ngayon, kumbaga doon sa pinaka-practical na pagpapakita nung pagtitiwala na yon ay mukhang hindi magkapareho?
Yeah, I think it's based kasi sa different questions eh. That index was measured by depending on the questions asked the people eh. And one of the things that I think was asked was when it comes to the pandemic response, specifically relief. Talagang pagkakatiwala ang simbahan because we were never questioned when it comes to relief pagdating sa corruption. If you will notice, ang second pa nga sa atin doon is educational institutions eh.
Yeah, correct.
So, hindi ang government. Because the government is still tainted by corruption eh, ang tingin ng tao.
But Marcos is tainted with corruption.
Yes, but that's different. Why? Because remember, this is a pandemic response question. Yung index ng trust, no? Now, ang naging issue kasi dito sa sabi mo nga, yung first one is yung index of trust when it comes to acts of charity, yan, yung relief response. Itong ito is governance. Now, what's the problem now with the governance? Na-based tayo sa disinformation. No? Because the question on whether he's credible or not was based on information. And now, yun yung nilaro. And that's where disinformation really did its damage to the Filipino people, I believe. Magagalit nga sila sa akin dahil sinabi kong dinamage eh. Kasi sabihin nila, paano kung yung amin yung totoo? You see, the narrative itself changed. Yung objectivity of something that is already there, na bago na eh. For example, the trust in him when it comes to governance, the question was about corruption. was about not being able to pay taxes. And yet, tingnan mo ha, kinwestiyon lahat yung narrative na yon on the part of history and pinresent, hindi naman sila corrupt eh. They were the best the best, sabi nga nila, government the golden era daw ng governance. So, biglang merong mindset na ganon. So, hindi nila pagdududahan kung corrupt. On the issue of the debate of the taxes to be paid. O, sabi naman, ang galing naman din nila sumagot. Ang sagot naman nila, di ba nasa inyo na yung properties namin, so what do we have to pay for? Di ba yun na yun? When you get our properties, yun na yung payment mismo. You only have to sell it. So, ngayon na lumabas, mukha namang dapat palang wala ng bayaran. Nasa kanila na eh. And then the questions of whether they have had taken money from the government, from the people. So, di ba, naroon yung narrative naman na mayaman na kami before. So, all the narratives that were supposed to create a mistrust and distrust on the type of governance he will offer was already changed. And tinan mo, this information which supposedly has been strategic really worked. And I think yung 2016 elections was just a testing ground. He almost won as a vice president. So, ibig sabihin, their strategy was working back then. So, I think that's the situation right now na nangyari. And the part...
So, how do we rise from...
Well, again, the truth will have to rise because the truth will really set us free. It might take us a longer time, maybe. I do not know. Baka nga patay na ako. Ito pa rin ang paglalabanan natin. But the matter of fact is, una, we really need to strategize na. I mean, not the problem of the church. It's just something that we live by. We react. We usually respond when there's a problem. Instead of being proactive, medyo nahuhuli tayo lagi natanim na, namunga na yung kanila. Ngayon pa lang tayo magtatabas ng damo. Tingnan nyo. Kasi bumunga na yung damo So, I think we have to be preventive na rin Proactive in the sense na maybe we should start really strategizing. One, after this, what do we say about the truth? No? Second, how do we re-educate our people not only about the truth, about their values? Hindi yung bago mag-eleksyon, tsaka na naman tayo mag-voters ed. No? It's always a pre-election response. How about post-election na lang kaya? Which is a longer period.
Yeah.
Siguro mas effective pag mas mahabang panahon. I do not know. So, all of these things, sa aking tingin ko, as a church, we really need to reassess ourselves, no? And to rise from the ashes. We really have to act in such a way. Tapos yung binanggit ko kanina, yung questions on credibility and disconnection. To rise from this, I think, we really have to reassess ourselves, lalo yung leaders of the church. We, the clergy, the hierarchy will really have to reassess if we are living the same values we fought for. The gospel values. No, not only charity yan. Kasama dyan yung hiniling ni Jesus na iwan mo lahat, which is poverty. We are the church of the poor. I am asking myself, am I still a bishop of the poor? By being a poor bishop first. So these are questions that I think for us to rise, we have to make. And then of course, nariyan siyempre yung disconnection. Maybe we are not speaking the same language as our people na. That challenge from the Holy Father years ago of the shepherd to smell like the sheep, we must really take it seriously. Hindi lang pasaw-saw. Because as long as saw-saw lang tayo, unless we really smell like the sheep and live amongst them, we will never have that connection with them. Obviously, we do not already have it. Because we have sent a message, seemingly nobody listened.
Parang cry in the wilderness.
Yeah, cry in the wilderness. Maybe we created that situation, the wilderness. So I think for us to rise, we have to respond directly to these things and be humble enough to accept these things. Because if we keep on denying them and telling ourselves, no, because we'll be pointing fingers again, there will be no really real situations to what has been the problem before and the results that we are now looking into.
So parang sinasabi mo po, Bishop, we have to own up to our own failures.
I think that's a big part for us to rise from this. Unless we do that, this will continue and it might get worse. I think I'm not a a prophet of doom, no, but no, but also I would also always like to tell people na God is greater than all these human events, no matter what. I always hold on to that. Na kasi dami na desperate na eh. No, sabi nila, paano na tayo ganito?
Lalabas na lang ng Pilipinas.
Oo, sabi ko, do not live in despair. No matter what we're experiencing now, no matter the doldrums that we have seen and maybe placed ourselves within, there is a God who can work greater wonders than what we foresee. Yung sinasabi ko naman, akin yun eh. Things could be very different from what God can do and what God knows already.
And speaking of being hopeful of miracles, dito po sa inyo, Bishop, after 2 decades and more, meron na tayong isang victory for our case against Mark Hopper. Gaano importante ito sa inyo?
Well, of course,
to the people.
This is very important for, I think, 3 reasons. One, it gave courage to those who are, kasi remember, this is just one of the cases. The supposed victory is called the Rita Natal case in the regional trial courts here. That's only one of the many cases that we have. So, this will help in giving hope, courage to those other cases that we have, especially for the plaintiffs who are beginning to dwindle in number. Kasi nakakamatayan na eh. So, ang dami na dyan ng desperate, ang dami na dyan without hope na hindi na tayo mananalo, Bishop, hindi naman tayo tayo dito, wala nang justice sa Pilipinas. Now here, there's a small light. So, that's one very important effect it has. The second one is, of course, the credibility of the justice system in the Philippines has always been doubtful for us. But here we are. Surprisingly, a judge, and I would like to, of course, ask people to not judge the judge, maybe judge the system, because why did it take so long? But this judge, in fairness to him, he's the 5th, if I'm not mistaken, judge to handle this case. He was the only one who gave a decision na talagang clear based on what he thought was according to evidences and what is right. No, sabi ko nga, I'm very thankful a judge like him handled the case. So sana, in fairness to him, people will not bash him about it, because when it comes to the merits of the case, ang laki ng ano eh. So para sa akin, this helped us reassess our belief in the justice system, because we have a bigger case pa nga eh.
Yeah.
We have many cases and then may bigger pa, which is the province of Marinduque versus the mining company. That's a bigger case because it's a total package. Eh. Now, dito sa Pilipinas gagawin yung case. So now, mayroon pa palang katarungan, ano? Pwede pa pala. Although, sabi ko nga, it still is a long ways from a total victory, no? So that's the second thing. Mayroon pa palang justice sa Pilipinas, no? The third thing is that with this small victory, no, it gives also courage to those who are fighting for, not only for the plaintiffs, but for us, those who represent them, the many lawyers who are pro bono. Nasabi ko nga, nung dumating dito yung dalaga, ngayon may mga apo na. Sila mismo, they're really also becoming sometimes desperate na rin, despairing na rin. Minsan sila mismo parang gusto na sumuko. This, I think, is a push for them and all those who advocate for environmental justice. Because right now, this is a big fight in the Philippines. We represent that. Before, we were representatives of yung disaster.
Correct.
Para kami yung poster province and diocese. But now, with a small victory like this, we can maybe start the ball rolling for victories all over that we can fight. No matter how big Goliath is, we have still this reality that as long as we fight for something, no matter how long it takes, if we stand our ground, there will be victories.
And you're also the same hopeful, even if, like, for example, the incoming administration of President Bongbong Marcos Jr. is leaning towards the mining
Of course, I will always remain hopeful no matter who sits on the throne, because presidents, kings, they will only stay for 6 years and maybe even less. You never know. No, life is like that. We can be surprised by ano. And again, sabi ko nga, maybe you never know. Maybe the person will also convert. He may have shown himself to be leaning towards pro-mining. They have their reasons, of course. I never know. I will never know all the reasons that they have. I cannot judge them for that. But they can also change. That's humanity. No, maybe they will suddenly become, I don't know, advocates for the environment. So I will never close that door. And in fact, we will make a letter to the Office of the President requesting assistance for the fight against miners, or the mining companies that are, and then we will ask the national government to declare the province of Marinduque as mining free na talaga, na hindi na sana kami isama do sa geo plans of development, that because no matter how we put it, the whole province, our small island, is 83% mineable. If we let in the miners, nothing will be left of the island, no? The beauty that we have here, and hopefully, sabi ko nga, no matter the administration, I never lose my hope. And of course, because I put my hope in people, I put my hope in God. So that's it. I think I'm not fearful. I'm only worried that because of what they have declared before, they will be pro-mining. But again, at the end of the day, we will still fight.
Bishop, itong fight nito, does this mean also that, for example, ngayong July, you will be doing the CBCP plenary assembly again, and then in January, you made public yung pastoral statement natin, the latest on ecology, and then you also had the pastoral statement again on the election. So, itong dalawa bang ito ay posibleng mapag-usapan ng husto again ngayong July?
I think it will be part of the conversation of the plenaries, no? Na siyempre after elections, what do we talk about? The situation. And part of the situation, of course, is this new administration with whom the church will have to hopefully work with, maybe even confront, maybe even contradict. I do not know. Depending on how they act, we will act. So that will be part of the conversation. In as much as the environmental issues are concerned, I think there will be a lot of discussions about it, because yun nga, in Marbel, there is that issue already. Infanta is still there, in the dam.
Yes.
So now, with our small victory, maybe it will be part of the discussion. I do not know, but hopefully, and I'm sure that it will still be part of the conversations we have. Now, what direction, I am not yet sure.
Bishop, last question po. With the Philippines almost finished with the synodality process natin po, what do you now want to tell our people, our laity, our faithful, in terms of how do we move on from where we are at the moment?
So the first one is, I would like to express my gratitude to the laity because that consultation would not have been a success unless the laity did their part. So that's again a proof on how important your role is. So I would like to thank them for that. Second, I would like to give the message that the Holy Father, when he intended this consultation, he made it clear that the process itself is much more important than the result. So meaning to say, the Holy Father is asking us as a church to listen to each other. In fact, his message last May 29 on the World Communications Day was that, listen with the heart. And I think that's where we need to go, and I would like to tell the laity that, because that's how hopeful the laity are in their expression in this consultation. Sabi na, sana tuloy-tuloy na ito, sana lagi kaming natatanong, napapakinggan. And I at least would like to say that that's where the Holy Father wants the hierarchy, the clergy, the bishops would put our efforts into. No matter what plans we have, no matter what pastoral programs we have, hopefully we begin first to listen to the people. And to the laity, I would like to tell them that you're part of this. No? And hopefully we grow pa. Kasi ang lalabas dito, hindi natin na-reach yung gusto ng Santo Papa, which is as many as possible. Ang nangyari sa atin yung possible lang. Meaning to say, for example, in my diocese, the most is 5%. So, where's the 95? Maybe that's where we have to begin right now. Target the 95%. Little by little, by systems of listening, that dapat sana merong instruments ng church. And I think that's where we're going. Hopefully, mapag-usapan din yun. And of course, the last, my message to them after this consultation is that now you have a voice. So please use your voice. Use your voice in such a way na, sabi ko nga, nakakatawa because in the reports, many are negative ang lumalabas na. Sabi ko, wala bang mga positive? Marami din pala. Kaya lang nabibigyan ng emphasis yung negative minsan na, ganito. And dami din palang magagandang sinasabi. So, let's work with this. So, hopefully, you use your voice not only for what is wrong, but also for what is right, for what is good within the church. And sabi ko nga lagi, when be cyber missionaries nga, sabi ko lagi. So, to the laity, be voices of good, no, in the church. No, now that we are listening to you, also try to be the voice that we need to hear in the church.
Maraming salamat po, Bishop. Nakasama po natin Bishop Marcelino Antonio Maralit ng Diocese of Boac. Sana ay magkaroon pa tayo ng ibang pagkakataon para makasama siya ulit dito sa ating programa.
Caritas News on the Go, the Social Action Network's news and public affairs online show featuring national newsmakers and our team Caritas from the 85 social action centers nationwide. Live at Caritas Philippines social media channels, Fridays 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning. Caritas News on the Go.